Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more 2025 to 2026 state governments and officials. Today, as you should be able to see on the screen, we are doing the state of Delaware. Couple interesting things about Delaware. The capital is in Wilmington, Delaware, and Delaware was the first state to sign on to the Constitution. So the Constitution is written, it's sent out. Delaware is the first state to say, yeah, we agree. So, yeah. A little bit of history there for you. Now, let's go ahead and look a bit at its government and everything. It did get a constitution of its own, as many states do, but this one wasn't until 1897. Remember, Delaware is one of your original states, but it doesn't get a constitution till much later. So, interesting. Uh, the Constitution itself has 100 plus amendments, but the Constitution of the current Constitution that's used from 1897 is the fourth governing document for Delaware state government. So yeah, it looks like they set it up to be much closer to the U.S. So they set up a General Assembly, executive branch, and legislate and judicial system, much like we have federal in the other states, as we talked about before. So it had three other constitutions before: 1776, the year the U.S. proclaimed its independence; 1792, the year the Constitution was signed in over the to replace the Articles of Confederation; and 1831. And finally, you have the current one, 1897. So, yeah. Now, let's see. State of Delaware. Your legislative branch is called the General Assembly, which is a bicameral, two-chambered body with an upper house, the Senate, and a lower house, House of Representatives. Executive branch with a number of elected individuals. And of course, the judicial branch, which is your court system. What else we got here? Delaware has 3 counties because remember, it's not a big state. It's about yay big like that. If you've ever wondered, it sits on this little peninsula of land that's gets its name from the states that share the peninsula. The Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. So Delaware is a big part of that peninsula because it is so small. So in all, it has just 3 counties: Newcastle, Kent, and Sussex. A lot of names you'll find very familiar with England because it's an English colony originally. But yeah. Now, with that said, let's look at the executive branch, which you have your governor, of course, serving a 4-year term that you can follow up once. Let's see. Yeah, before 1776, it was a colony of the Kingdom of Britain, administered by the colonial governors in Pennsylvania as the lower counties on Delaware. And it was part of the original 13 colonies that declared independence in 1776. That's when it adopted its first state constitution. They had president of Delaware, and it was renamed to governor after the Constitution of 1792, which was following the change to the federal constitution. And a number of names who are quite big. I'm not as familiar with McKinley. I know Thomas McKean. I've heard the name before. Heard the name George Reed and John Dickinson. So those are some individuals who are pretty famous when it comes to American history overall. So there are, like with many states, some of their first people are first governors and stuff are also big names in American history, as it is with the other 13 colonies. Now, let's see. Let's go ahead and look at your elected officials in the executive branch. You have your governor, Matt Meyer, your lieutenant governor, Kyle Evans Gay, your attorney general, Kathy Jennings, state auditor, Lydia York, the insurance commissioner, Trinidad Navarro, and your state treasurer, Colleen Davis. So these are the individuals in the executive branch that get voted in by the people. Now, we also, of course, have the cabinet. The secretary for the Department of Agriculture is Don Clifton, and remember, these are appointed positions. The commissioner for the Department of Corrections is Tara Taylor. Your secretary for the Department of Education, Cynthia Martin. Your secretary for the Department of Finance, Michael Smith. Your secretary for the Department of Health and Social Services, Kristen Link Young. Your director for the State Housing Authority, Matthew Heckles. Your Secretary for the Department of Human Resources, Yvonne Anders Gordon. Secretary for the Department of Labor, Lucretia Moultrie. The Director for the Office of Management and Budget, Brian Maxwell. Your Adjutant General for the Delaware National Guard is Major General James A. Benson. Your Secretary for the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control is Greg Patterson. Your Secretary for the Department of Safety and Homeland Security is Josh Bushweller. Your Secretary for the Department of Services for Children, Youth, and their Families is Steve Yeatman. Your Secretary for Department of State is Charuni Patabanda Sanchez. Your Chief Information Officer for the Department of Technology and Information is Gregory Lane. Your Secretary for the Department of Transportation is Shantae Hastings. And your Secretary for the Office of Veterans Affairs is Brigadier General Karen Berry. So that's a look at the cabinet that works under the governor. Now, with that, let's go ahead and proceed over to looking at the General Assembly, the legislature. They call theirs the General Assembly. It's not the Congress, it's General Assembly, which we know a number of states call theirs Assembly as well. So it's not unusual to be loved by anyone. Anyway, as we've already mentioned, it is a bicameral, two-chambered body. A Senate and a House of Representatives. Your Senate President is the Vice President, Kyle Evans Gay. Your Senate President pro tempore is David Sicola. And your House Speaker is Melissa Minor Brown. And the way it's set up, your Senate has 21 seats. Its current division is 15 Democrats to 6 Republicans. And its House of Representatives have 41 seats. Now remember, this House of Representatives represents districts. So that's saying there are 41 districts in that little state. We know there's only 3 counties. So these districts aren't very large. But anyway, your current makeup of the House is 26 Democrats and 15 Republicans. Second. Special sessions may be called by the governor. Members are elected from single-member districts, all apportioned to roughly equal populations after each decennial census every 10 years. And the elections... Senate is elected every 2 years to a 4-year term, which means it's a half and a half. And the entire House of Representatives is elected every 2 years to a 2-year term. So, yeah. Vacancies are filled through special elections. There is no term limits for either chamber. We saw there was a 2-term limit on governors, but apparently in the legislature there is no term limit. And their General Assembly is the second smallest bicameral state legislature in the U.S., ahead of Alaska at 60 seats and behind Nevada at 63 seats. So Alaska has the smallest, Delaware the second smallest. Nevada would be number 3, so yeah. Kind of makes you wonder about states like Wyoming, who only have enough population for one at-large district House member on the federal level, how they have so many more district seats. It's interesting. But anyway, yeah. That's a look at the legislature. Let's go ahead and look at the court system. The courts of Delaware. Your state courts are the Delaware Supreme Court, Delaware Court of Chancery, the Delaware Superior Court, which are 3 courts, 1 for each county. Below that, you have the Delaware Family Court, the Delaware Court of Common Pleas, the Delaware Justice of the Peace Court, and the Delaware Alderman's Court. So there's a number of courts in Delaware. Let's pull these up first with the look at the government. See what it says on the judicial branch. The Constitution establishes a number of courts. As we mentioned, the Supreme Court, Superior Court, the Court of Chancery, Family Court, Court of Common Pleas, Justice of the Peace Courts, and they also mentioned an Alderman's Court, but I do not see them listed here. So that's interesting. Now, one thing we know about Delaware, if you followed a lot of the videos I make, Delaware is a state a lot of companies will put their tax headquarters as, so they are taxed less because Delaware is extremely lenient on corporate taxes. It's a tax haven for corporations. A great number of companies are incorporated in Delaware, including 60% of the companies listed on the New York Stock Exchange. It is considered to have the most business-friendly legal system in the U.S. So, yeah. So it's something that the courts often take into consideration. Okay, Justice of the Peace Courts and Alderman's Courts. But we don't have a link to look at what Alderman courts are technically. But yeah, let's jump back over here to this. Well, we can just do this because it has a lot more of them listed we can look up. Let's go ahead and look up the Delaware Supreme Court. The sole appellate court in the U.S. state of Delaware. So they don't have a court of appeals. So if a case is to be appealed, you can appeal it to the Supreme Court of Delaware. Developed a worldwide reputation as a respected source of corporate law decisions, particularly in the area of mergers and acquisitions. Yay. Supreme Court has appellate jurisdiction over direct appeals from the Superior Court, Family Court, and Court of Chancery because it is the only appellate court in the state, and its jurisdiction over appeals from final orders is mandatory. However, it has discretionary jurisdiction over appeals from interlocutory orders. So it can kind of decide on what it wants to do. Oral motions, oral argument. And a few of the cases the Delaware Supreme Court has handled. Chef versus Mathis, 1964. Smith versus Van Gorkum, 1985. Unocal versus Mesa Petroleum, 1985. Revlon versus Andrew McAndrews and Forbes Holdings, 1986. Mills Acquisition Company versus Macmillan Incorporated, 1989. Paramount versus QVC, 1993. John Doe No. 1 versus Cahill, 2005. And Unitrin Incorporated versus American General Corp, 1995. Justices are appointed by the Governor of Delaware, subject to the confirmation by the Senate, and serve a term of office of 12 years. Additionally, like all the courts of Delaware, the Supreme Court is subject to a bare majority partisanship rule where no party can control more than 3 seats on the Supreme Court. So that's an interesting setup so that no one party can make it a partisan clown car like the Supreme Court is today. So interesting. Composition as of May 2023. Chief Justice being Collins J. Seitz Jr. And your Associate Justices Karen L. Valahura, Gary Traynor, Abigail Legros, and N. Christopher Griffiths. So yeah, 3-2 composition. You have a Supreme Court Justice and 4 Associate Justices. So that is a look at the Delaware Supreme Court. With that, let's look at the Delaware Superior Court. Let's see. Judge length is 12 years, and again, you have 5 justices. Oh, wait. No, I'm reading the wrong one. That is Supreme Court. We want Superior Court. My bad. Previously, it was known as the Superior Court and Orphans Court. And serves as an intermediate appellate court hearing appeals on the record of Court of Common Pleas, Family Court, and most state administrative agencies. It's headed by Judge Jan R. Jordan. Maybe it's Jan, since I don't know if people technically would pronounce it under Scandinavian rules nowadays. But yeah, Superior Court includes a complex commercial litigation division, which has been operating as a business court since 2010 and focuses on the commercial disputes for money damages between businesses, complementing the Court of Chancery, which focuses on internal business disputes. So, the Delaware Superior Court. Let's go ahead and look at the next one on the list. The Delaware Court of Chancery. And judges serve 12-year terms, and there are 7 judges. And the Court of Chancery is a court of equity in Delaware with one of Delaware's 3 constitutional courts, along with the Supreme Court and Superior Court. Since 2018, it consists of 7 judges and is known for being a hub for corporate governance litigation in the U.S., as 2/3 of Fortune 500 companies are incorporated in Delaware. One of the preeminent business courts in the world. Like I said, Delaware is your corporate tax haven. Connects to corporate law. Handles corporate internal affair litigation, such as shareholder disputes and merger disputes. The chief judge is called the chancellor, and the other 6 judges are called vice chancellors. Also known as the political balance requirement, that requires that the bare majority of the court shall be of one major political party and the other judges shall be of the major political party. So it tries to maintain a level of fairness and evenness, again trying to prevent partisan chicanery. So it does a lot with corporate law, simply from the fact that so much corporate law is in Delaware. The original Constitution, 1792, 1831, 1897. But anyway, yeah. That has been a look at the Court of Chancery. Now, let's go ahead and look at the Family Court in Delaware. Says it handles domestic and custody matters. Decide matters and make orders in relation to family law, including custody of children, and could disregard certain legal requirements as long as the petitioner and plaintiff came into court with clean hands, honesty, fairness, and the request was reasonable, quantum meruit. Let's see. U.S. I don't really care about. England and Wales. Oh, it's just talking nationally. Well, let's look at the U.S. First established in the late 1910s on the behest of the probation officers invested in the success of specialized domestic relations courts. Okay, so dealing with a lot of family issues. The Delaware Court of Common Pleas. State courts of the U.S. state of Delaware. See what else it says. Are trial courts and inferior courts with limited jurisdiction. It has criminal jurisdiction throughout the state over all misdemeanors except certain drug offenses and motor vehicle offenses, which are dealt with in traffic court. The Court of Common Pleas also holds preliminary hearings in felony cases. On civil matters, the Court of Common Pleas tries lawsuits in which the amount of the controversy does not exceed $50,000, which it calls small claims. Remember, some of the other courts in other states do like $25,000, so. Petitions for name change, habitual offender hearings on the privilege of operating a motor vehicle, and administrative appeals from the Division of Motor Vehicles. Court also has appellate jurisdiction of criminal matters from aldermen's courts and criminal and civil matters from the Justice of the Peace courts. The Superior Court of Delaware is the court of general jurisdiction in Delaware and has original jurisdiction in all felony cases and civil suits in which the amount exceeds $75,000. Appeals to the Court of Common Pleas generally, or from the Court of Common Pleas, go to the Superior Court. So that's just saying, yeah, it's usually your next step up is to the Superior Court. It consists of 9 judges, sitting in Delaware's 3 counties, 5 in Newcastle County, 2 in Kent County, and 2 in Sussex County. The court has 3 problem-solving court divisions: a drug diversion program, a community dispute resolution program, and a mental health court. So yeah, that's a look at the Court of Common Pleas. Finally, since it's the last one we can really look at, let's look at this Justice of the Peace Court. Boom. Judicial officer of a lower court elected or appointed by means of a commission, letters patent, to keep the peace, and in past centuries the term commissioner of the peace was often used with the same meaning, and depending on the jurisdiction, such justices dispense summary justice or merely deal with the local administrative applications in common law jurisdictions. Justices of the peace are appointed or elected from the citizens of the jurisdiction in which they serve and are or were usually not required to have any formal legal education in order to qualify for the office. They talk about the UK, modern use Australia, Bangladesh, Belgium, Canada, Hong Kong, India, Ireland, Jamaica, Malaysia, New Zealand, Pakistan, Russia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Tonga, back to the UK, Scotland, Northern Ireland, all parts of the UK. The US, Arizona, Arkansas, Connecticut, Florida, Louisiana, Maine, Massachusetts, so we've gone beyond. They don't seem to list Delaware. Kind of disappointing. I was hoping that, let's see, hoping they'd have some information on Delaware, since that's the state we're trying to look at here. Okay. So a bit of a different court is what they are, but yeah, that gives us a look at the court system for Delaware. So that is quite interestingly different than many other states and federally, but yeah, with that said, we'll go ahead and end this episode here. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.